Thank you for coming to this virtual lunch and learn event. Um, this is Beyond the Worksheet, resources for active learning in the university libraries, featuring Lisa Gerald, Head of Education, Music, and Media. So a little bit, and you should have gotten a warning when you joined the meeting that this meeting is being recorded, just a heads up in case there wasn't that warning for some reason. But this meeting will be uploaded to the university library's YouTube channel as part of the virtual lunch and learn series playlist. So I just wanted to warn everyone just in case. But a little bit about the virtual lunch and learn series before we get into things. This series is a little program that we put on highlighting some university libraries, activities, services, or technologies, or partnerships. And it happens at noon on the third Thursday of every month during the academic year. So there will not be one in the summer. But these programs are always free and open to the public. So if you know someone who would be interested in an upcoming event, feel free to share the registration link with them. Yeah, so on to the Beyond the Worksheet program. So thank you again for joining us for an introduction to learn about the large and unique collection of 3D materials in the university libraries to support active learning. The collection includes models, games, puzzles, educational toys, and examples of cultural items from around the world. Previously kept in a closed collection, the 3D items are now accessible and browsable. We will see examples of items and learn about ways to create engaging learning experiences in all grades and disciplines. And like I said, our guest speaker for this event is Lisa Gerald. So I'm going to hand things off to her.
Great, thank you, Nick. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming this afternoon. Looks like some familiar names in the Zoom, so I appreciate you all being here. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and we'll see if this works without too much drama. Ta-da. Can you see that? Should be slides.
Yes.
There we go. Okay. So as Nick said, I'm Lisa Gerald. I'm the head of education, music, and media here at Bracken Library. And we're going to talk today about resources that we have in our collections in education, music, and media. And you'll hear me call it EMM. That's what we call it here in the building. It's a little bit quicker to say. So resources in EMM that support active learning. And so before we get started, I want to tell you a little story. So once upon a time, there was a librarian who applied for a job at Ball State, and it was me. And I started here in 2001, and shortly thereafter learned about this collection and began to work with the previous person in this position that I have now. And it wasn't long before I decided that that's the job in the library that I want. And so it was years and years and years in the making, but by the time my predecessor retired, I was fortunate enough to be able to apply and then step into this role. And so it has been a long time coming. I've been in this job for like almost 8 years now, maybe even 9 years now. And it's still a great collection. I tell people I have the best job in the building because I get to work with all of our pre-service teachers and all of this fun stuff. So hopefully you will think it's fun too. And we're going to talk, here's our agenda. Let me see if I can flip forward here. So what I want to talk a little bit about today is active learning. I'm not going to talk a lot about it. I know a lot of us know what that is. We may already be experts in it. But I want to just kind of briefly go over what that is and why that's important in terms of the purpose of the collection that we're going to talk about. We'll talk about a little bit about the history of the Realia collection or the 3D collection. And then we'll talk about, I'll show you some pictures of some highlights and some examples of some items that we have in the collection to support active learning. So before we get into that, though, I did want to mention, we talk about this collection a lot as a tool for pre-service teachers. But we have students from all over campus who use the items in the collection, from speech pathology to nursing to design and art students. A variety of students find something in this collection. So if you teach on campus, please don't think it's just for our pre-service teachers or for the monthly community schools. We work with folks from all over campus to integrate this stuff into their courses. So please feel free to reach out to me at any point if you would like to know more. And also, we're a small group, so feel free to interrupt if you have a question. I'll try to watch the chat. It's kind of hard while I'm talking and flipping slides, but I will try to make sure that we're paying attention. And Nick, I don't know, can you help me with that a little bit if there's something in the chat?
Yeah, sure. I'll let you know.
All right. So let us move forward here. Maybe. This weird slide delay. Okay. So active learning, very briefly. This is not a new idea by any stretch of the imagination. Active learning is the type of teaching and the type of learning where activities are engaging the learner. So in other words, it's not passive learning, right? It's not sitting at a desk and doing a worksheet or taking notes or listening to a lecture, watching a video even. Most of the time, in fact, hopefully all of the time, teachers at all grade levels and in all disciplines are working to engage the students that are in front of them. And so when we do things that engage students' brains and their bodies, it helps them to retain information. It helps to keep them engaged and pay attention. It allows them to construct meaning on their own as they're learning and as they're playing with, whether it's a game or a puzzle, or we're going to see some examples of some cultural items and some traditional dress items from other places in the world. So that kind of activity is really beneficial to retain what it is that you're learning. So you often see, especially in the older grades, problem solving, experiments like in STEM. STEM is a really easy one, and math is a really easy one to think about active learning. We think about labs, we think about math manipulatives and that sort of thing. There are options for a lot of different disciplines too. So exploring and being really hands-on. And as I mentioned, it's applicable to anybody, any grade level. I had a teacher, this is again, I'm not going to tell you stories all afternoon, I promise, but I had a teacher in high school who used puppets, and I was just at first like, what is she doing? Why do we have puppets? But it was a foreign language class, it was a French class. And so the puppet would do an activity, would do something, would, and we all kind of giggled, but I still remember like how to say, I'm brushing my teeth, because the puppet brushes teeth. So it's useful. You just sort of have to integrate it in a smart way. So one of the things that we have in our 3D collection, our Realia collection. And so by Realia, that's an educator or teacher or even librarian word for real things. So they're examples of things in the world. We have models, as Nick mentioned, games, puzzles. One of the items that we have, one sort of sub collection that we have, is a collection of WPA miniature furniture. So WPA is the Works Progress Administration. You may know of that from history class. During the Depression, the government of the US commissioned these different projects to keep people employed. And so you'll see they collected oral histories, people collected folk songs and folk tales and sheet music, all kinds of different collections that were sort of recorded to try to grab on to those historical things. And there were lots of other projects too. But this miniature furniture collection is an example of one of those projects. They had craftspeople making these, and it was centered mostly in Pennsylvania. They centered these, or they created these miniature models of different furnitures in different styles. So this cradle that you see above the slide title there is a little wood cradle that someone made and designed, and it's replicating a particular style. It came with a little doll and a little blanket. So it's very cool. and we've had students use it. These are things that are pretty rare and valuable, so we don't check them out overnight. But we do have students come to the library to use them, to sketch them in art classes, to use them in design classes, even in history classes, to look at like sort of what was life like. So here's the cradle. There's a couple of other examples I'll throw out there. There's a corner cabinet you can see there. There's like a drop leaf butterfly table. There's a couple of examples of those. Variety of different things. There's the chair there on the right. And again, they're small. They're 4, 5, 6 inches tall. They're not huge at all. But they all work. You can move the parts around and things. We have so many chairs. So cool, very unique collection, and it's the oldest of the things that we have in our collection. And that's one of the sort of early examples of visual learning, as it was called back then, or active learning, and looking at actual things and being able to touch and see the design and how things are put together. So we can move on to another segment of the collection. This is kind of coming forward in time. We have a lot of fossils, geological specimens, biological specimens too. So we have, you'll see there's fossils there, there's teeth, a variety of different kinds of teeth from different animals there. We have some igneous rock there on the right. I just took a few pictures just to show you. There's boxes and boxes of these things. So we also, in terms of the biological samples, there are these, you may have seen them if you use this collection a lot. There are these like acrylic blocks that have like there's one that has like a tarantula in it. There are some that have different plants, one of them I use all the time in class. It has like a little, like a pea plant, and it sort of shows the life cycle or the growth cycle of a pea plant, which is one of the standards that we have in first grade. So we talk about the pea and then the seed and then the little roots that come down, and it shows the stem coming up. So one of the things I love about these items is that you can Google a fossil and take a look at it and rotate it around from all different sides and look at it and measure it and read about it. But there's something about that analog experience of holding it in your hand that is not, in my opinion, duplicated by the internet. And so while the internet does lots of great stuff for us in terms of teaching and learning, I still think there's a place for the analog in our classrooms. And so that's why I like to trot these out in front of our pre-service teachers and make sure they know that they're there. So I'm not going to flip this slide and show you a tarantula, I promise. I thought about it, but I didn't want to, so I didn't. A significant portion of the collection, of the 3D or the Realia collection, are cultural objects from all over the world. So lots of different cultures in terms of like in time, so ancient cultures, modern culture, all kinds of different things. So on the left, that's a flute from Brazil. You can see, if you look really closely, there's a little llama or a little alpaca there carved in. This is a Taos drum from I think the Pueblo people, Southwestern. So there's all kinds of different cultural objects that we have that you can check out. You can take them to class. You can play them if you want to. We do wipe them off. We do clean them, especially post-pandemic. We do have a whole stack of alcohol wipes that we use to clean off the mouthpieces and that kind of stuff. But there's a whole collection of musical instruments from all over that you can play. We also have different examples of dress. So these are some items from Japan. So even textiles too from all over the world. So if you're a fashion student, like a design student, you want to see examples from different cultures, these things are available. Again, to check out for 2 weeks. We have a high school class that comes in every year, and they do projects about different countries in the world and different cultures. And one of their requirements for their assignment is to come down and find an item from their country, from their culture, and take it back as part of their presentation. So it is fine to check these things out. I always tell folks that, it's important stuff, but it's not irreplaceable or rare, generally speaking. If it is, we don't want you to take it out. So don't be nervous about borrowing things, I guess, the message there. Here are some of our dolls that we have. So these are a well-kept secret. We have dolls from all over the world, and they, she's my favorite, the Poppet there on the left. I feel like that sometimes at work. She's a Poppet doll. We have some other different cultures here. Chinese peasant. This is a person from Norway. I forget the African country here. If anybody knows, you can pop it in the chat. But just some examples of all of the different kinds of materials that we have. So if your students are studying a particular culture and they're interested in seeing, and again, touching something real, that's an option for you. We do have, in addition to the dolls with the traditional dress, we do have some examples of, like, I don't want to say life size, but they're like person size, like different examples of that clothing. So we have a kimono, for example. We have some clothes from Middle Eastern countries, some from Asian countries. So there's a variety of different things. So if you really wanted to see like a full size piece of clothing, again, design students are interested generally in those kinds of things, and art students too, the textures and that. So musical instruments, we touched on this a bit with the cultural objects. We do have a collection of musical instruments. Some of them, I need to move you guys out of the way so I can see my slide. There we go. So some of these things are classroom sets, like on the far right there, that's a classroom percussion set. So some of you may be familiar with that from elementary school, if you're a music student, or if some people who teach poetry like to bring those in to teach the meter of poetry. All kinds of different items. So the rain stick is my favorite. If it's not on the shelf, it's probably in my office because I'm turning it over and back to kind of set the mood a little bit. Variety of different things there. Yes, you can play them. Yes, you can check them out for 2 weeks. And yes, we clean them. So other pieces of the collection are more modern day current types of things. So we've moved the collection into educational toys and games. We do have games if you're a board game person. There are games that you can check out. We have Settlers of Catan, we have Scrabble, we have Scrabble, a Braille version of Scrabble. We have all sorts of different, like Ticket to Ride, which is a really popular game if you're interested in board games. So there's all kinds of things you can check out just to play if you want. We do try to buy things that are educational as well. So Alphabet Island is one of our new purchases. I love the little shark there. He's cute. Candyland, right? A classic about color and counting and taking turns and being a good loser and a good winner and that sort of thing, right? So a variety of different things like that. This is actually the version of Candyland that I had, which is why I bought it. I didn't. I wanted the nice retro one too. We do have the modern one as well, so if you're interested in that. We had this Can Do reading game. This is a reading game that I selected because we have a lot of students right now who are working and going forward. I'm sure one of the standards that students end up teaching at Burris a lot is informational text. A lot of our pre-service teachers work with that standard, and that can be hard. So how to read for information instead of just learning to read. So that's that kind of game. And then Squishy Circuits up there on the top right, that is a kit that you can use to make different kinds of circuits with Play-Doh, hence the squishy, right? So it's conductive dough, and students can set up different like there's a little fan and there's little light bulbs that you can turn on. So different ways to make. I know when I was doing that in like the 4th grade, we had to draw them with a pen. Not nearly as fun as taking Play-Doh and making things light up. So I'm going to pause for questions. Is there anything that's popped up? Okay. So educational toys and games. Lots of things. One of the things that you can do too, if you're interested in using any of this stuff, either with kids in your own life or your students in class, is the great thing that these can help you with is serve as a great example or a jumping off point. So if you want your students, we've had classes who had to design a game to teach a concept or design a game to, achieve some kind of goal in the course. And so students can come over and take a look at a variety of different kinds of games. We have games from all over the world. So ancient cultures and traditional games from lots of different places. And so it's not just board games, but it's all kinds of things that they can look at. Okay. This is one of my favorite examples to share. I usually ask my students, do you know who these people are? Who are these people? This is Ramona Quimby from Ramona, Beatus and Ramona, Beverly Cleary books. The Lorax is here from He Speaks for the Trees. You may know the Lorax from Dr. Seuss. We trot him out every Earth Day to talk about pollution and the environment. And then this last person here on the right is Strega Nona. She's from an Italian story. She has a magic pasta pot and makes pasta that fills the town. So these are different book characters that we have. We have a huge collection of different characters that go along with some of our favorite classic children's books. And so if you have a reluctant reader, or if you have as a reward, maybe you want a student to get to hold Ramona while you read about her. That's what these are for. They're a lot of fun. So, and it's fun to pull them out in class and go, oh, great. This is talking about differences. This is a part of the collection that I am passionate about. I love this stuff. I love buying it. I love taking it out. We have added to the collection in the last few years a variety of different types of realia items, 3D items for helping us talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, inclusive excellence type topics. So the photo conversation cards are there. Those are it says children on the box, but people really with autism, on the autism spectrum. So they're photographs of different activities that are happening. I don't know if you can see on the front of the box, there's a person extending their hand to shake, being a good sport. So there's a soccer goal with some people talking in front, behaving in class, how to participate, so these cards are great to start conversations with students who might interact differently than some of the rest of us. And so it's helpful to have those available. They're also used by some of our speech therapy students to help people tell a story if you're working on that kind of thing. So the prompt cards there, the diversity and inclusion prompt cards, these are really cool. They're cards that you can draw out, you can pick out, you can read, and it's questions that will start a conversation, an age appropriate, grade level appropriate conversation with different students about how they're different, how they're the same, how we treat each other, that sort of thing. So we have the kindergarten through grade 2. We also have a 3rd through 5th grade box as well for a little bit older students. So those have been pretty popular. And then my puppet friends here on the right, we have lots and lots and lots of puppets, lots and lots of different stuffed animals and things. These puppets are part of a multicultural set that students can use to, if you want them to sort of script a play or have a conversation. Sometimes, especially little kids will tell things to the puppet that they may not say to you directly. So sometimes that's easier. Our students in counseling and school counseling come and visit us, and they get to see some of these things as well. So there's a variety of application out there. And here is another passion of mine. This is a slide of some of our social emotional learning materials. So that's for those of you who may not be in the education scene right now in K-12. There's a lot of that kind of education, that kind of work going on in the classroom, this social emotional learning. How do we treat each other? How do we share? How do we manage our feelings when we have big feelings? What do we do? And so we've purchased a variety of different examples of items that teachers can use to help with that kind of work in their classroom. So the temper tamers there are it's a jar full of prompts. This is for younger kids. We also have one for older kids, for middle school and high school kids, that talk about managing your feelings and making good choices and all of those things that we talk about, with our kids at home. So you can see some of the examples there at the top. Find a calming place if you're feeling angry about something, right? How to talk with them about that. The insight game there on the bottom right is an emotional intelligence game that kids can play. So if you want to help develop empathy, or to help us be in someone else's shoes about a particular topic, that's a great game to check out. And again, useful for pre-service teachers, but also counseling students and anybody who's working with children in any setting, or even at home. I used to check out some of the stuff for my kids when they were little. So, questions about any of that? I think I'm almost at my time. I have one more little slide to show you. Okay. So the last picture, as Nick mentioned, all of these items, the Realia or the 3D collection, used to be kept. If you're familiar with the library, you know that maybe EMM is on the lower level of the library. So you used to come downstairs and there was a big counter and you had to go to the desk and ask for stuff. And so this is a very well-kept secret. Nobody knew that we had all this great stuff that you can use to teach with and to be active in your learning with. And so one of the things that we did, if you've been on campus for a couple of years now, we had a flood in the lower level of the library in Bracken, and we were displaced for a while. And what that gave us an opportunity to do, or actually we kind of had to do, was recarpet, and we lost some walls, we lost some other furniture and things. And so we decided to rethink this space. And one of the things we were able to do, thankfully, I'm so happy and grateful about it, is we got to put in shelving so that people can browse the things that we have. If you're used to searching on OneSearch, you may know that OneSearch is not great for non-print, non-full text items when you're searching for it. So these things are really difficult to identify in our online searching. But the old-fashioned analog way of browsing is possible now. So it's really exciting. Questions about any of that? I know that was a quick tour, and it was only scratching the surface of what's available. If you're interested in knowing more, definitely let me know. I'm more than happy to provide personal tours if you're interested. But we definitely have a lot to see. So if you want to come on over, send me an email if you have questions, and I'd be happy to help out. Thanks. Back to you, Nick.
Thank you, Lisa. That was
Sure.
great. I'll keep an eye on the chat just in case.
Yes.
If anyone has any questions, feel free. But I will just start closing out the meeting. So thanks again for attending. And thank you again, Lisa, for all of your amazing work. And this looks great. It's very exciting to be able to actually see things and browse through them, like you said. And then I just wanted to remind everyone that the next virtual lunch and learn will be on April 20th And then that will be the last one of the year, of the academic year. And then again, this video will be uploaded to the Ball State University Library's YouTube channel. So feel free to share that with anyone you know. Yeah, so have a great day. Oh, and Lisa just put her email in the chat, so feel free to reach out to her with any questions. Yeah, thanks again for joining us in this virtual tour of EMM, and have a great day.